So when people talk about the state, I wonder what state they're talking about. You know, are we talking about the UK state? Are we talking about the Brazilian state? The Chinese state? That's quite different. The Somalian state? Does that exist? You know, the reason I'm saying that is because, you know, or perhaps we'll have international agreements between states. Right? But the reason I'm saying it is because there are no actually existing states that can solve the problem of climate change. To illustrate this, I want to talk about when Lula became president of Brazil. This is a process, the end result of a process of 20-year struggle, mass movements aimed to get institutional power, okay, in order to change the world. And when they get in, this is one of Lula's leading aides, Frei Beto. He makes this statement. I'll just read it out because it's quite interesting. He says, "We are in government, but we are not in power. Power today is global. The power of large companies, the power of finance capital." Now, this is the problem that the anti-capitalist movement, the anti-globalization movement, the counter-globalization movement, the movement of movements, whatever you want to call that, but the whole movement from Seattle, this is the problem. This is the problem that it was around, and that problem has not gone away, you know. There isn't a state, there isn't a magic button which says state, we press it, and the problems go away, right? Because I'm not being idealistic here, I'm being pragmatic. We have to be pragmatic. We have to deal with the problems we're facing here and now. We can't just wish that there was a state out there which would solve everything for us, all right? We have to start with the problems we face in this tent now, and that's pragmatism. We start from the problems in this tent and then we see where we go forward. And I do agree about the urgency of the issue. And I do think that also means that we can't just have, you know, an attitude that we can keep on having noble but pure defeats. You know, and then someday, perhaps, we will prevail someday. You know, which has been the attitude that you know you can fall into. You know, we will prevail and we'll stay pure. What we're talking about is something new. We need to create something new, okay? Which means we don't know how it will go. We don't know how things will pan out, all right? So we don't know what the role of the state will be. You know, I love science fiction. It's one of my favourite genres, right? But I'm not going to base my politics on it, right? On, you know, wonder what will happen in the future. This is what I think will happen in the future. There'll be flying cars. Basically, you know, we have to start what our problems in this tent now, and we work out. That's what pragmatism is. So I don't know what the role of the state will be, and I'm open to the ideas that the state can act in various ways. I strongly suspect that we are already experiencing what the role of the state will be in climate change. Right? When you try to get into this tent, into this field, you get searched. There's a helicopter overhead. There are police coming in to try and disrupt this tent, this field. Okay. No, this isn't some sort of accident. No, this is basically how the vast majority of the world's population experience the state, right, on a day-to-day level. Which also brings me to another 90% I wanted to raise, okay, because 90% of the world's, we could say that 90% of the world's population are more or less powerless, okay, and there's 10% who perhaps are powerful. I'm obviously making that figure up, but it's a nice little connection. And that leads me to something else, which is, I want to make this very important point that we are not all in this together, all right? The rich have the ability to tolerate much larger levels of climate change than the poor, okay? It's barrack houses that get built on floodplains, not mansions, okay? You know, the rich can get, you know, are not living in Bangladesh, but if they were, they could move out, okay? They have the resources to insulate themselves from the risks of climate change. They could tolerate more climate change than the poor. How do we know? Because the poor are already dying from climate change, right? So the point I'm making is, you know, that in order to get 90% carbon reductions, we need to empower the 90% of the world's population to stand up for their interests, okay? In order to get 90%, we need to mobilize the 90%. Right? There's only one, you know, one of the things about whatever the role of the state will be, it is only by having massive social movements will you even have a chance of having the massive transformations that are necessary to get to 90%. You know, that is our main problem, okay? That's the main thing we need to do, and that's the whole point of this camp. You know, we experience the dynamism of being in a mass movement, and that's the sort of thing can be infectious and can spread. It has happened before, you know. We have to really try and make it happen now. So basically, that's the road to 90% that I'm interested in. It's the 90% of the world's population. So one way we could think about it is, right, are we orientated toward that top 10%? Do we want to get the world's governments in this tent to talk about climate change? Or do we want to get 90% of the world's population in this tent to talk about their lives and what they're doing?